Let's see. There we go. Okay, YouTube folks everywhere, thanks for checking in with us this evening. Glad to have you on board and hanging out, viewing the live stream. Um, got my hands full this evening with some check-ins. We had early bird check-ins with a total of 15. I think that's excellent. Um, so hopefully, the idea being that with 15 check-ins out of the way, we take another 25, 30 check-ins. Maybe it won't take 45 minutes just for check-ins. So we're hoping to accelerate that process. Let's see, we've got multiple things happening at the moment, and okay. So Atlanta 6-0, I see your message, and I will take that under advisement, and we'll go from there. Now, I've just installed this evening a cough switch, and when I hit the if I can remember to hit that button when I need to cough, then maybe I won't be coughing in your face. So this is brand new. It's going to take me a little bit to figure out, when I do press that button. It seems to do a pretty good job of muting my microphone, both in the radio and to the live stream. So, of course, all I have to do to mute myself on the radio is let go of the push to talk, and that's pretty easy to do. but I haven't been able to mute myself into the live stream. So the mixing console is too far away for me to be able to access while we're in play. So looking at the VU meters, it looks like audio levels might be just a little bit low. Let's see what that does. Nothing. Let's see what that does. Okay, so I'm just going to make a little adjustment right here and see if that turns our volume up in the live stream just a little bit. That should be a little better. Okay. All right, so here we are. And okay, hopefully, Gary, that fixed it. We'll see if that's got the audio level back up where it needs to be for the live stream. If it's still low, definitely ping me again, and I can make another adjustment. All right. Okay, we're getting close. My clock is not on the screen tonight, so I think we will have to we'll just have to ballpark it and see when our start time is. So, but we're getting close. And oh, here's the other thing I need to do is get the script up in front of me, because I can never think of anything to say. Who am I fooling? So that'll take me probably enough time to make us late starting. I see Flip has joined us, going to help out with the log. Thank you, Flip, for hanging out with us this evening. I really do appreciate your help on the log. Let's see, what have I done here? I'm looking at the wrong log. Oh, that's because I didn't want to look at this log at all. All right, so there we go. That's better. Open Sesame. And we want to open a document that's called Net Control Script. Looks like it's this one right here. Okay, I think we are good to go. So let me grab the push to talk and let's kick this thing in gear. Good evening and welcome to the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. I'll be working off of the Pine Log repeater this evening, and we are linked in with the following repeaters: Sassafras, Jersey, Somerville, Lookout Mountain, Crawford, Noonan, Zebulon, Moreland, and the VoIP service, otherwise known as Zello. Tonight, our RF coverage is approximately 31,000 square miles, but our VoIP coverage is worldwide. This net takes place every Thursday evening at 7:30 p.m. I'd like to thank everyone who has made the North Georgia GMRS the most expansive and active GMRS network in the country. Your net control tonight is Atlanta 946. WQIR 514. My name is Justin, and I'm located at Studio B, right here in Woodstock, Georgia. Let me break. On the net, you can talk about your day's activities, radio equipment, or anything you think we'd like to hear. This is a family-based network, so we encourage you to get your family involved. Once the floor is open, it is permissible to address other members of the net by their name or tactical unit number. Your FCC call sign is only required when you sign in and sign out of the net. When signing in, please speak slowly and clearly as you give your call sign, your tactical unit number, your name, and your location. Let me break. Normally at this time we would begin taking VoIP check-ins, but before we do, I want to go ahead and acknowledge our early bird check-ins. We had several folks check in early, which hopefully will accelerate the time that we spend taking check-ins. So let me go through these early bird check-ins real quick, and we'll just go ahead and move on to the VoIP check-ins. So first we have Atlanta 420 William in Roswell. William is in and out with us this evening. Thank you for checking in, William. Next I have Atlanta 403 Bobby in White County. Next I have Atlanta 353 Scott in Rydell. Next I have Atlanta 780 Houston in Austell. Houston is in and out with us this evening, but thank you, Houston, for checking in. Appreciate that, and we'll catch up with you soon. We also have Atlanta 554 Cherie in Marietta. Cherie is in and out with us this evening. And we have Atlanta 55 Jeff in Decula. Jeff is also in and out. And that brings me next to Atlanta 555 Dave in Marietta. Next we have Atlanta 517 Bob in Dallas. And we have Atlanta 261 Scott in Holly Springs. Scott is in and out with us this evening. I want to thank Scott for checking in with us, and I'm looking forward to the story of the groceries and the girls sometime later. Next on the list I have Chat 84, Jim in Hickson. Thank you, Jim, for checking in with us this evening. And we have Atlanta 285, CV Smith in Murrayville. Thank you, CV, for checking in on Zello. And we have Atlanta 26, Flip in Atlanta/Druid Hills. Thank you, Flip, for checking in from the beautiful Druid Hills. And also thank you for your help on the log tonight. And we have Atlanta 150, Stuart in Murrayville. That's the early bird check-in list. So with that, we'll go ahead and move on. Let me break. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to VoIP check-ins. So anyone wishing to check in through VoIP, please call Net Control now.
This is 253 WQNV 274, Donald from Blairsville, Georgia.
Make a nice big pause because Zello check-ins sometimes can be a bit of a challenge, but I think this is going to be it. So we'll go ahead and acknowledge Donald. All right, we must have all of our Zello check-ins already, but we'll go ahead and acknowledge Atlanta 253, Donald in Blairsville. Thank you, Donald, for checking in with us tonight. Looking forward to hearing of your adventures in Panama City. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to any guest check-ins. Any new members or any first-time check-ins or any guests, that would be anyone with a GMRS license who is not a member, please call Net Control now. Crickets. And we'll just give this a little bit of a break here. And okay, so I think we're okay on our audio now. All right, not hearing any guest check-ins. We're going to go ahead and move on now to youth members 18 and under. Please call Net Control now. All right, I don't get Aiden tonight. Maybe he'll check in later. Okay, so with that, let's just keep this thing moving, and at this time we're going to move on to Pine Log check-ins. Now, please understand, anyone who missed their opportunity, guests, new members, youth members, etc., you're welcome to check in at any point along the way here, but at this point we're going to look for Pine Log check-ins. So Pine Log check-ins and anyone previously mentioned. Please call net control now.
This is Atlanta 291 WQIJ 279, Nick Ackworth, in and out. Good evening.
This is Atlanta 56 WQZC 882, and in Holly Springs, in and out. Good night, everybody, and please stay safe.
This is Atlanta 57 WQZC 882, Andrew in Holly Springs.
Excellent. All right, is that it? Did we already get everybody? Okay, maybe our early bird check-ins are going to help us out here. So with that round, we have Atlanta 291, Nick in Ackworth. Nick is in and out with us this evening. Thank you, Nick, for checking in. Always great to hear from you. And we have Atlanta 56, Anna in Holly Springs. Anna is also in and out with us this evening, but thank you, Anna, for checking in. It's great to hear from you. And that brings me next to Atlanta 57. Andrew, also coincidentally, in Holly Springs. And Andrew's going to hang out with us, so it's great to hear you on the air, Andrew. With that, we're going to go ahead and open up check-ins to any repeater anywhere, including new members, guests, youth members, etc. Please call net control now.
That's Atlanta 246 out of Ball Ground, Georgia. Billy checking in.
Atlanta 410 WRKN 627, Glenn out of Camden.
WRKJ 581, Doug in LJ.
Okay, we have Atlanta 246. Billy in Ball Ground. It's great to hear from you this evening, Billy. Next we have Atlanta 410 Glenn in Canton. We've got you in log, Glenn. We'll come back to you here in a little bit. And we have Atlanta 366 Doug in LJ checking in and out with us this evening. Thank you, Doug, for checking in. It's great to hear from you. Any additional check-ins? Net control standing by.
Atlanta 509 Jesse here in Alpharetta, standing by.
WRJN 906 Steve in Talking Rock, checking in.
Sorry. In and out, I'm transmitting from Duluth, Georgia. WRHW 610, Greg Freeman. Checking in and out. Good evening, everyone.
Okay, good stuff. All right, well, he's doing that. I'm going to go back and look and see if I can find. That is 550. Okay. All right. Okay. So 76 was. Nope. Was that chat 76? Nope. Don't know who that was. Okay. All right. Let's see, where were we? I think we were at Atlanta 509. Jesse in Alpharetta checking in with us this evening. Thank you, Jesse, for checking in. Looking forward to talking with you. And we also have Atlanta 550 Steve in Talking Rock. Thanks for checking in with us this evening, Steve. Next, that brings me to Atlanta 76. Got a rough copy on you, and I'm not sure if I have the TAC number or the name. We have David, and I'm not sure if that's right. And we have you in Duluth. So the Duluth check-in, would you please come back and clarify our check-in, make sure we got all that right. Also, we have Atlanta 172, Greg in Bremen. Greg is in and out with us this evening, so it's great to hear from you, and we'll look forward to hearing you again. So the 76 check-in from Duluth, please come back and help us to clarify our check-in.
Atlanta 76, this is David from Duluth, Georgia, mobile.
All right, David, we got a good copy on you that time. Atlanta 76 from Duluth. Excellent. Okay, then, all right. Well, we're in good shape. We've got a great start to this evening's net. So I guess what we'll do is just go ahead to the top of the list and get things started. So tonight's topic was just any general GMRS questions. Any questions about the organization, or questions about radio equipment, or anything that we've missed, or anything that's still outstanding, from the last couple of weeks. And so if you have questions or comments about how things operate or how they work, we'll do our best to get you some answers. And if I don't know the answer, I'll probably make something up. I'm just kidding. I'll do my best to find the correct answer and get back with you either this evening or offline at some point down the road. So with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and fire away. First on our list is Atlanta. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back to our VoIP check-in. Atlanta 253, Donald in Blairsville. Donald, do you have any questions for GMRS, your equipment, or how things work, or are you just you're just a veteran at this and you know the way to go?
Good evening, Justin, and good evening to the rest of the net. Just wondering when the repeater is going to be up and running in Blue Ridge.
Well, that is an excellent question, and we anticipate getting equipment moved and into position in the next couple of weeks. So we're very excited about that. We have a project coming up here weekend after this that will kick that thing into gear, and then very soon thereafter we should be able to bring that repeater online. So I would say we should be on the air with that repeater sometime in March, if not shortly thereafter. So but we don't have any definite dates on that. We're still coordinating schedules amongst multiple people, and so we've got to get all those spinning plates to line up just right, the moon and the stars and that sort of thing. But I think we have all the hardware available. It's just a matter of getting people and schedules together to go and install the equipment there. So should be very soon, and we're all very excited about that. That's a great question. Do you have anything else? Oh, I forgot about my cough switch. You guys got to help me remember that. I don't know how you're going to help me, but you got to help me.
If I can help with it, I'd be more than willing to help with it.
All right, well, I will definitely keep that in mind, and if we can figure out how we can use you, then we'll let you know. The bigger challenge here is getting the key people's schedules together with work and with weather and things like that. So many of the people that are going to be involved in these projects have day jobs, and so getting up there requires either scheduling time off or working weekends and that sort of thing. So with that in mind, we'll move as quickly as we can and get that thing on the air. I'm very excited to see how that machine performs, and I think that's going to be an excellent addition to the North Georgia GMRS family. Thank you for that, Donald. And with that, now let me make a little confession here for the early bird check-ins. I'm going to go to all of you next, but I did not distinguish between VoIP and RF check-ins. So we're just going to muddle our way through it. And if you're a VoIP check-in, we'll come to you as quickly as we can. First on my early bird list, I have Atlanta 420, William in Roswell. William was in and out with us this evening, but thank you, William, for checking in. And that brings me next to our second early bird check-in, which was Atlanta 403, Bobby in White County. Bobby, do you have any questions for the group, or do you have any advice you'd like to offer?
Well, good evening, Nat, and the rest of the group. And now I've been with the group for quite a while, so I don't have any real questions. But one thing I'd like to tell a lot of the new members, I hear a lot of people say, well, I was near this repeater, and I heard people on Pine Log, and I was on such and such a repeater, and I heard people on this. We're a linked network. There's, 10 repeaters online tonight? They're all linked. So if you hear one repeater, you're hearing what's going out over, 30,000 square miles of North Georgia? We're all linked. If you're near a linked repeater, you're going to hear every other repeater that's linked. Ends all traffic and whatever else. It's all one big happy network.
That is an excellent point, and unless you're looking at the map or one of the other tools that we have, it can be difficult to know where traffic is originating from. So you may be monitoring the Pine Log repeater or the Sassafras repeater or any of them, the Noonan repeater, and if you hear traffic, that traffic could be originating anywhere in the system. So you don't necessarily know unless you're looking at the map which repeater originated that traffic. So that's a good point. And like when I'm mobile or even throughout my workday, I don't necessarily have the screens up so that I can tell where traffic is coming from. It's sometimes, invariably, when I have a meeting or I have a call that I have to be on, the radio gets busy. And when I don't have anything like that going on, the radio is quiet. But oftentimes when I hear traffic through the day, I don't necessarily know where it's originating. I just, if I have the ability to answer a radio check or that sort of thing, I will. But most of the time through my workday, I'm not able to do that. But that's a good point, Bobby, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Definitely, it does make a difference being on a linked network. We don't necessarily know where the traffic came from, unless we just happen to know who it is and where they're generally located. All right. Thank you for that, Bobby. Next on my list is Atlanta 353, Scott in Rydell. Scott, do you have any questions for the North Georgia GMRS group or any comments?
This is Scott, Atlanta 353. I got a question about call signs. I've heard a few people. I know the North Georgia GMRS call sign and the regular GMRS call sign, but it seems like some people have some ones that go on forever. What do those mean?
Well, there's there's two things. You say call signs, but I think you're referring to the tactical unit number. So the call sign is the call sign that's issued to you by the FCC, and that is the legally required call sign that you need to identify your transmissions with at some point, throughout your conversation, typically at the end, or once every 15 minutes is what the rule is. So if you're engaged in a long conversation, you need to identify several times. But I think what you're referring to are the tactical unit numbers. So you'll hear some tactical unit numbers that may be, you may hear Chat 84, or you may hear Atlanta 555, or you may hear any of a number of variations of that. I think we have some Columbus tactical unit numbers. We have Cades Cove tactical unit numbers. We had a Cades Cove check-in last week. And so you may hear any of a number of various tactical unit numbers. Let me break. So the way that the tactical unit numbers work is if GMRS radio is a family-oriented radio service, and so my tactical unit number is Atlanta 946, but my call sign is WQYR 514. Now that also is the same call sign that my wife Julie would use. She would use WQYR 514. But if you were trying to call me on the radio and you just call WQYR 514, you might get me or you might get her. So by using a tactical unit number, you can specify which one of us you wanted to address. So that's the function of the tactical unit number. Does that answer your question, Scott?
Partially, but I heard somebody the other day after they gave the GMRS call sign, which mine was the WRJV 223, then the North Georgia GM Tactical one, which is Atlanta 353, somebody went out for like 10 more letters after that.
Well, I'm not familiar with what that would be, unless okay, you may have heard what you may have heard was somebody issuing their call sign phonetically, and that's not necessarily something that we do in GMRS radio, but we have a lot of hams in the group, and hams are habit bound to issuing call signs phonetically. So that may have been what you heard was somebody doing it. Does that sound like that might have been it?
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Okay, so we don't necessarily, there's no requirement to make your call sign phonetically on GMRS, and we don't really encourage it. It's FM radio, so typically if anybody can copy you at all, then they're going to copy you well enough that you don't need to phonetically break out your call sign. But a lot of hams just have that habit, and that may very well be what you're hearing is the phonetic variation of the call sign. Something that's not required, but there's nothing wrong with it either. It's just something that some of us do. So, all right, I'm glad we figured out that riddle and sorted that out for you. Next on the list we have Atlanta 780. That would be Houston in Austell. Houston is in and out with us this evening, having some supper with his beautiful wife Mona, and we're glad Houston's able to check in with us. And that brings me next to Atlanta 554, Cherie in Marietta. Cherie is also in and out with us this evening, and glad to hear you on the air. And that brings me next to Atlanta 555. That brings me next to Atlanta 55, Jeff and Decula. Jeff was also in and out with us this evening, and Jeff will be we'll be looking for him on the air again real soon. Thank you for checking in with us, Jeff. Next, I have Atlanta 555. All of these 55s and 555s, and it's got me all confused. But Dave, you're up next. Do you have any questions, comments?
Yeah, Justin, that's a lot of fives. Quick question. Following you on YouTube on the live stream, and I know you referred to Flip Atlanta 26. So is Flip actually the one that's filling out the log on Google Docs, or are you doing it simultaneously while trying to manage the net?
Indeed, yes. The answer to your question is yes. So one of the cool things about Google Docs is that I can share the document with a number of people, and we can work in there simultaneously. And so when Flip is working in a field, I see that field highlighted and in a particular color, so that I know that he's about to enter something in that field, and vice versa. And it's very helpful, especially when things get hectic and busy. It's very helpful for me to have him in there, helping to make corrections, correct my spelling. If I don't hear something, maybe he does, and he can enter something in that way, or he can kind of handle some of the logging while I'm looking up information that I've missed. So Flip is very helpful in that regard. So Google Docs has that functionality where multiple people can be in there working simultaneously, and so that's what's going on. Is the answer to your question is yes.
Well, thank you so much for answering that. We appreciate what you do, Justin, and thank you to Flip also.
Yeah, that's a big help having him in there. So, all right. Well, thank you for that question. And next, that brings us to Atlanta 517, Bob in Dallas. Bob, what words of wisdom do you have for our new users, and any advice that you can offer for folks that are new to GMRS?
Oh wow, wasn't planning on being put on the spot for that one. Words of wisdom: antenna, and don't worry about SWR. A 1.1 versus a 1.5 doesn't mean a hill of beans. Don't worry about it. With that being said, I had two other things. I wanted to see if anybody was heading up to Dalton this weekend. I'm pretty sure I'm going to head up Saturday to the Ham Fest at the fairgrounds in Dalton. I can't tell you what the name of the fairgrounds is, but it's online, the Dalton Ham Radio Club. And also wanted to do a shout out. I actually loaned a radio to a friend from work, Tom, and thought you might be listening tonight. He doesn't have a license. He's an amateur radio operator, but not a GMRS. So I just thought maybe I'd throw out a shout out to Tom, and hopefully his little radio I loaned him is working, and he can be listening. Maybe think about joining the organization.
Well, Tom, if indeed you are listening, we'd be glad to have you on board, and that would be great to have you as part of the group. And yeah, SWR, it's not the first thing that I look at when I set up an antenna, when I set up a radio. Usually it's something that I dig into if I'm not happy with the performance. So we're not CB radio here, and generally, I mean, if you're buying dual band equipment, dual band antennas, then yeah, you're probably going to need to take a closer look at that. But if you buy an antenna that's tuned for GMRS, I haven't had to put equipment on the meter, off the bat on any of my mobile installs. So I have looked at the antenna on the Jeep because I was concerned that we had an issue there, and with the antenna analyzer, and it looks really, really good. I don't remember what the numbers are, so I don't want to tell a lie as to what they would be. And the same thing with the truck. I still haven't put an antenna analyzer on my antenna on Studio F-150, and we've actually run a net off of that radio. So the timeout timer got me. But in any case, yeah, you can get a long ways if you're just using the proper equipment, and that would be stay away from that dual band stuff. That dual band means it's a compromise. That means that it performs poorly across two bands instead of performing well in one. So I always recommend that you get a GMRS tuned antenna, and I'm not a dual band radio guy either. I like my mono band radios. Now, of course, my HF radio is a multi-band radio, but that's kind of a different animal. In UHF and VHF, I like my radios to just do the one thing that I want them to do. If that means I carry two radios, then I'm good with that. And for the longest time, I had two radios in the truck. I've taken the 2 meter out of it because I just don't use it that much. But and I did need one in here. So, but yeah, good stuff. And let me break. That's a good question too with regards to the Ham Fest. I would very, very much like to go, and I would encourage anybody that is interested in going to definitely take the time and head on up there. Don't go on Sunday, because it'll be crickets. It'll be empty. Go on Saturday. Get there around 8 o'clock, and figure on being there for 3 or 4 hours. It's worth it, and there will be a fairly large tailgating section. In fact, I don't know if they're going to have the indoor part this year. I'm betting that they do. I'm sure there's going to be a handful of vendors that are going to want to set up inside. They may not have the full range of vendors that they've had in the past, but nonetheless, the tailgate section, the boneyard, if you're a new guy and you haven't been to a ham fest before, that's where you want to start. And keep your money in your pocket, but walk through the boneyard, look at the stuff that's on the tables, look at what the vendors are offering, and get an idea of what's out there. Once you've done that, then if you want to go inside and take a look at the more commercial vendors, please do. And there's a lot of things that you can learn from those vendors, and there's a lot of deals that can be had for show specials. Let me break.
Break when you're done, Justin.
I got you, Bob. So definitely do that. And then after you spent some time inside, go back out through that boneyard and see if there are any treasures that you just have to have. Ham fests are great places to buy things like power supplies, great places to find antennas and antenna parts, great places to find unusual things. I love analog meters. I love them. I have a bunch of Simpson meters, way more than I should have, and I found a Simpson meter. It was unique to me. I'd not seen one in that format before. It's a benchtop meter, and not the format that I'm used to typically using. So I snagged that at the Ham Fest in Dalton last year, and very pleased with that. I also purchased a Kenwood Next Edge radio that I'm using for a GMRS radio in the F-150, and it's way more capable than we need for GMRS. It's almost a shame to put that radio in service as a GMRS radio because it can do so much more, but all of those features are disabled because we don't use any of that stuff in GMRS. But yeah, I got that radio for $80, and that radio works great. So I'm going to come back to Bob. What else do you have for us?
Yeah, the only other thing I was going to add is typically when we go to Hamvention or we have a group going someplace, we'll use 462.600 simplex with no tone. And I'll have that on in my truck. If anybody gets up there or has a question about something or needs help with something, give me a shout.
That's a great point, and I had completely forgotten to mention that. And yes, if you have a channel in your radio program for simplex, and do you remember what channel number that is on your basic GMRS channels, Bob? Uh-oh. My key is stuck. Okay.
Yeah, I was trying to wait for it to drop out. No, on the Midlands and stuff, I don't know. It'd be the third channel in a simplex mode. If it's 550, 575, and 600, so it'd be the third channel. But I don't know what number Midland and the consumer radios designate that at. Everything else is it's wherever you want to program it on a commercial radio.
All right. Yeah, I've got an issue with a stuck key, so I'm going to have to sort that out here. But yeah, folks, if you're going up to the Ham Fest, definitely keep that in mind. Simplex 462.6, no tones, just generic 462.6. Most of these radios should be able to tune that. I don't remember what channel that is. You may have to check your manual or just flip through it until you find it. But definitely use that for communications on the GMRS side when you go to the Ham Fest. And most Ham Fests will have a talk-in frequency that you can access on the amateur side. But for us GMRS folks that don't have an amateur license, use the 462.6. I'm going to break here real quick and see if I can figure out this stuck transmit key.
That's going to be channel 17, GMRS, channel 17, 462.6.
Okay, looks like we're still stuck on our transmit key. So I'm not sure what's going on with that, but I'm definitely going to have to dig into that. So I'm hands-free. No push to talk button is being depressed, but it looks like we're transmitting. So, and I know there were issues with that earlier in the evening. I think I may have upset Clarence, but in any case, let's go ahead and move on to Atlanta 261. Scott in Holly Springs. Scott was in and out with us this evening, and he has an adventure afoot with the girls and the grocery store, and I just wonder what kind of a cake is being made or what kind of special treat is about to happen or is currently happening at Scott's house there in Holly Springs. So thank you, Scott, for checking in with us this evening. That brings me next to Chattanooga 84, Jim in Hickson. Jim, do you have any questions for the group, or do you have any words of wisdom for GMRS users? And are you planning on going to the Ham Fest? What is our deal here? I don't know why our push to talk is stuck. And Jim's not talking, that doesn't help. Let's see what this does. That fixed it. Okay, so I can probably go back to this radio. Okay, I think I found my push to talk issue, and we're not hearing anything from Chat 84, so maybe he was in and out, and I missed that. But Jim, if you were trying to get in here, definitely chime back in at some point along the way. We'd love to hear from you, and so good stuff there. Next on my list, I have Atlanta 285 CV Smith in Murrayville. CV, I know that you're a Zello user. So I'll give you a nice big break to get that push to talk to work, and hopefully you're not having as much trouble with your push to talk as I'm having with mine. But in any case, CV, do you have any questions? Any general questions for GMRS? All right.
Atlanta 946, Atlanta 285. No particular questions. Atlanta 60 and I are planning on setting up radio equipment probably this weekend, and we look forward to it. And I'll be off the Zello except for absolute necessity. And we appreciate the work you do every Thursday night on the net. Atlanta 285, WRKN 234, clear.
All right. Well, I'm excited. Probably not as excited as you are, but I'm excited to hear that you're going to get a station set up sometime very soon, hopefully this weekend. And looking forward to hearing how that station sounds once it's on the air. So that's good stuff. And yeah, the Thursday evening nets are, we do this because it's fun and engaging, and I have a good time at it. So I appreciate the opportunity to be able to be here. So thank you, CV, and with that, we're going to go ahead and move next to Atlanta 26 with his antenna back in play in Atlanta. Flip, tell us what's going on. Do you have any questions?
Well, good evening, and thanks for doing the early bird. Good running smoothly. That's nice. Just following up with
All right, I wasn't able to copy any of that.
Question, I don't mean to put you on the spot at all with this, Justin, but I noticed that last week you guys a little bit of the history of NB GMRS, and I'm always curious, you and your better half, Atlanta 947, have put a ton of work into the organization. Are you guys board members of the not-for-profit organization?
Hey, Flip, I was unable to copy hardly any of that. Can you come back to Zello and try that again? All right, understand that Flip is unable to do that at the moment. That's unfortunate. I didn't get very much of that. I think that you were asking about the history, perhaps of Julie and I becoming involved in North Georgia GMRS. Flip, is that about what you were asking? Go ahead and show me on the screen.
He was loud and clear on Sassafras.
All right, Houston. Yeah, I wasn't able to get over to Sassafras in time to be able to hear him, and so I tried that, but I didn't get it. But yeah, I've got a note here from him. So, Flip, basically, Julie and I became involved in GMRS, I don't know, 2017-ish. Once upon a time, a long time ago, Atlanta 291, Nick in Ackworth, we'll be coming to him here shortly, badgered and tormented me with this GMRS stuff. Nick and I were working together with the high school marching band as parents of students in the band, helping to haul and set up band equipment. And Nick was spearheading a radio program for the band members and staff to use, and he encouraged me to get a GMRS license, and so finally, probably about the end of the season, I did. And let me break here. After several weeks of participating in the net, and back then the net was nightly, we very much enjoyed conversing on the air with Atlanta 36, was the net controller at the time. And after several weeks of hearing me check into the net, Atlanta 947 decided to check in. And in the process of that conversation, she asked Atlanta 36, so how do I get your job? And, well, here we are. So here we are all these years later. Atlanta 947 has been the net control coordinator for North Georgia GMRS for, I don't know, for a couple of years now. And we have enjoyed that role immensely. She has been challenged here lately with a different. Sorry about that. I've got a little distraction here. To get back into our gatherings that we've had in the past, we would meet at restaurants at different times or at parks. We had a fox hunt at Amicalola Falls about a year ago. Like to do that again, and that's something we can probably do and maintain social distancing. So we just need to start putting a plan together to make that happen. And yeah, so all of these things are elements of what we do and what we try to promote, what we try to encourage. So glad to hear your comments and glad that you get the same sense of family that Julie and I do. So in Atlanta 151, I'm looking forward to hearing you on the air. And even if I don't hear you on the air, it's great to know that you're there listening and hanging out with us. So thank you for that. Next on my list, I have Atlanta 291, Nick in Ackworth. Nick is in and out with us tonight, as he often is. But thanks, Nick, for hanging out and listening in. Glad to know that you're there. And that brings me next to Atlanta 56, Anna in Holly Springs. Anna is a busy, busy kid, but we're glad she took a little bit of time to come and hang out with us. So hopefully we'll be able to visit with Anna again sometime soon. But for now, she's in and out. And that brings me to Atlanta 57, Andrew, also in Holly Springs. Andrew, do you have any questions or words of wisdom? You know, we wanted to kind of continue on with the new user questions because I just get the sense that there's still a lot of that out there, but you don't really qualify as a new user anymore. Bobby, are we back?
Good evening, Justin, everyone on the net. Yeah, maybe not new. I don't know. Slightly, I don't know. But anyway, the questions, that's always my thing. Definitely ask questions, especially if you have anything you want to know. I think I've touched on this last week or the week prior, or I don't know, they all run together. Wealth of knowledge with the group that we have here. So if someone is new, or even if someone is, you know, somewhat advanced and they have a question, please ask it. Pretty sure you're going to get an answer on it. So that's the main thing. A lot of us on here may be veterans with radio, but that does not mean that we know it all. You can learn anything from anybody. Someone has something to offer always, is my philosophy. I use that in all different things, not only radio, but just along, you know, as far as employment or life in general. So ask questions. There's never a wrong question. Sorry, my voice is like going away. I don't know if I'm getting sick or allergies or whatever the case may be. But just ask if you have any questions, because we want everyone to be you know, as informed as they can be. And then, of course, as I said before, that could definitely help make your station be the best that it can be. So ask.
Yes, definitely. And, you know, it's been great, too, because I think we have heard more people asking for radio checks. And I think we've heard a little bit less kerchunking, although the last couple of days there's been plenty of it. But we're investigating some issues within the network, and that may be the source of some of it. But for those of you that don't know what kerchunking is, that's when somebody grabs the microphone and hits the push to talk, and then lets go of it to see if they can hear the repeater coming back to them. And in a lot of repeater systems, especially in ham radio repeater systems, there's a thing called a tail squelch, where there's a little bit of hang time that's programmed into the repeater. So the idea is that if your signal breaks up a little bit coming into the repeater will continue to operate for a period of time, the hang time, so that when your signal comes back, the repeater isn't cycling on and off, trying to catch up with your signal. We've turned the hang time down to almost nothing on our network, and because we are a linked network, that hang time really creates havoc with the linking equipment. So we rely on the links to generate the hang time, and that seems to work out much better for us. So with that in mind, if you are chunking in our system, you're probably not going to hear that tail squelch that that so many people are looking for to see if they're getting out. Let me break. I remembered the cost switch. And so with that in mind, the chunking is just annoying. It's just an irritation to people because you're not going to get the satisfaction of knowing whether or not you're making it to the repeater by doing it, typically, and it just makes a bunch of noise on people's systems. And there's a lot of people that sit and monitor throughout the day. Let me break again. Yeah, okay, I'm going to take a bit of a break here and take a drink to clear my throat. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to Atlanta 246, Billy in Ball Ground. Billy, it's been great to hear you on the air. Hope your real estate business is doing well. And do you have any questions for the group? Atlanta 246, Billy in Ball Ground. Do you have any questions for the group? Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and show Billy as in and out in our log. Maybe he said that and I missed it, but for whatever reason, he's not coming back to us. So thank you, Billy, for checking in with us this evening. It's great to hear from you, and hope all is well. That brings me next to Atlanta 410, Glenn in Canton. Glenn, I've heard you on the air quite a bit this week. It's great to hear you reaching out to 401 throughout the day. And Glenn, do you have any questions for the group?
I appreciate you listening to me today. Yeah, the 401's even my brother, but we've both been on the net a couple of weeks now and doing GMRS a little bit longer than that. But probably, maybe the only question I might have is with the linking of all the repeaters. I know you got Raspberry Pis. Are those does those have like SIM cards? Is that through cellular, or is that some other type of connection with those?
You know, the Raspberry Pis don't have the cellular device in them personally. The locations where we use cellular, we have an external cell modem. But most of the link locations that we have are hosted by a resident with broadband internet, so that we don't have to pay for the service. Instead, we offer a payment to the host site owner, and that very often results in much better service than we would get if we were paying for our own service. It's less money that way, and it's very good performance. Our Pine Log host site has been an exceptionally solid site, so that's something that we're very proud of and very glad to have had, and it's very low cost for us. So we don't use cellular at all for that, and we're also exploring some other connectivity options to bring those costs down even more and raise our reliability. So one of the things that can and does happen is that if you have an internet outage at one of the host sites, then it takes that repeater down from the linking network. Now the repeater will continue to work in a standalone fashion, as the McDonough repeater is right now. As soon as we're able to, we'll get the McDonough repeater back into the linked network. But as it is, that machine is operational in a standalone mode, but it is not linked in. So once repairs are made there, that should be back. But yeah, we do use cellular. We try not to. So as often as we have an opportunity to avoid the use of cellular, we do, just because of the cost. And the other thing that we've found with cellular modems is that they have to be restarted at inopportune times. They'll lock up, and sometimes it's not a big deal to get to that location to restart it, and sometimes it is. So we will use it if we have to, but that's not our go-to form of access. We trying to keep our costs low so that we can keep membership dues down and still be able to maintain, a state-of-the-art network. So does that answer your question?
Sure, yeah, that's great explanation. I was just curious how all that linked together.
It's quite a system, and there's a lot of components to it that I just don't know that much about. But it's been fascinating, and the system that we're using now is far more reliable than what we were on a year or so ago. So really pleased with the performance of this particular linking system, and looking forward to expanding on what we have. So I guess the first expansion is going to be the Blue Ridge site, but there are other sites that we are in consideration of, or even in development of. So we're actively looking at expanding this network and providing better levels of service. So thank you for that, Glenn. Next on my list, I have Atlanta 366, Doug in Ellijay. Doug, do you have any questions? No, I just noticed Atlanta 366 is marked as in and out. My mistake. So thank you, Doug, for your check-in this evening. Glad to have you as part of the group. Appreciate you monitoring and listening in. That brings me next to Atlanta 509, Jesse in Alpharetta. Jesse, do you have any questions for the group?
Good evening, Justin. Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of the questions the rest of the members have been putting up. I think they've pretty much covered a lot of my questions. I guess the only thing I was curious about is if for somehow our repeater network, are we somehow connected to some network that's also out-of-state connections?
Yeah, Jesse, with regard to that, I know that there are some GMRS groups that do tie in to very large portions of the country, and one of the things that we have talked about with this GMRS group is, we like the community and the fellowship that we have within this group, and we just don't feel like it's really all that relevant to tie into communities that are so external and beyond our local area that we don't really have anything to relate to them with. So, and there's some things we just choose not to use the network for, in part because there are things that are being done in other parts of the radio spectrum. Like, for instance, we don't do weather nets because they do weather nets in ham radio, and they do it very, very well. And to try to do that here would be unnecessarily redundant, and in some cases could take away resources from what's already an existing good network. So we don't want to participate in that, because what if there was a weather net related issue that didn't get communicated in the conventional sense because somebody was trying to convey it here? And so there could be opportunities for mistakes to be made, or opportunities lost because of having unnecessary redundancy. And so that's one of the things that we consider also with wide area linking. Now, something that has been discussed that I think is interesting, and I don't know that we really have an official position on, other than I think it's interesting, is occasionally linking to an outside network for something like a nationwide net. I don't know that we're going to do that, but it is an interesting concept. So we'll see if anything ever comes of that. But thank you for your question, Jesse. Do you have any other questions?
No, that pretty much covered it, Justin. It does make sense. I also was attracted to the community closeness of the group. I was just curious, trying to see if I could get a few buddies that are also on radio in different states to see what would be a good network to tie into, just to communicate. But yeah, you've covered that. Thank you very much. We'll be here on the side.
All right. Yeah, and we do have members that check in regularly from places like Florida, and we for some time had somebody checking in regularly from North Carolina. We also have an occasional check-in from our friend over in Alabama. So we do have some of that, but it's not something that we are closing our doors to, but it's not something that we're in pursuit of either, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So thank you for your question, Jesse. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to next on my list is Atlanta 550, Steve in Talking Rock. Steve, do you have any questions for the group?
I'm a little bit self-sufficient at it now, and I'm on the other side too, on the hand side. So I have a fair what's going on, and so no, it's all good. I'm just listening, and go ahead and
All right, Steve. Well, yeah, I understand that there's a place too where we're pretty well self-sufficient and have our stuff working and figured out, and yeah, I get it. And well, stick around with us, Steve, because we'll move past the new member stuff and get into something more interesting real soon. I have no idea what that is, but we'll figure it out. At this moment, I have no idea what next week's topic is going to be, but I think we've kind of beaten the horse on the new questions stuff. So hopefully at this point, we've pretty well got that wrapped up. But who knows what we'll talk about next week. Could be something completely off the wall. But stick around and we'll all find out. You'll probably know as soon as I do, because generally, as soon as I come up with a topic, I'll post it. But thank you for hanging out with us and listening in, Steve. It's great to have you as part of the group. Next, I have Atlanta 76, David in Duluth. David, do you have any questions? Oh, I'm sorry. David is in and out with us this evening. Thank you, David, for checking in from Duluth. It's great to hear from you. And we also have Atlanta 172, Greg in Bremen. Greg is also in and out with us this evening. But we want to thank Greg for checking in and appreciate you hanging out with us this evening, Greg. So that is the end of my list. And this is like record time, and that's okay. But at this time, we'll go ahead and open up the floor for any general questions or comments, and Net Control standing by for any additional check-ins. So Net Control, stand by.
This is Atlanta 299, maybe RJE 398, Steve in Roswell.
Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay, well, that'll do. All right, Atlanta 299, Steve in Roswell. Steve, it's great to have you in here. And kind of left a big old hole there to see if somebody else wanted to check in behind you. But I guess we'll go ahead and go to you and then follow that up with any additional check-ins. So, Steve, it's great to have you as part of the group, too. I know that you haven't been in the GMRS world for a very long time, but you've gone from GMRS to ham radio to being a VEC and all kinds of excitement. What is new for you happening in the radio world, whether it be GMRS or ham, and do you have any questions about what we do here?
know, the radio world has been something new for me from the start. And, yeah, GMRS is where I got started, and then I got my ham license and my extra and my VE, and I'm going to have the honor of being net control for the TechNet for the North Fulton Club on Monday night, which is something I'm a little nervous about. But you can just do whatever you want to do in this radio business. I mean, you can get your ham license, you can stay in GMRS, you can go all over the place with it. You can do them all like I'm doing. Yeah, I would just encourage everybody to do what they want to do with it. If they want to advance their career in radio and go ahead and get into, a technician or HF, general, and extra, do that. But if you are happy with just GMRS, stay there and do that. But it's a great radio. Is just great wherever you are in it. And I don't know. I'm just real honored with what I've been blessed with since I've got started with it, and have enjoyed it tremendously, especially during all of this COVID. It's kept me sane.
You know, that is, you raise a couple of really good points, and for a long time I've joked about it. You know, oftentimes jokes are funny because they're based in truth, and my joke is that GMRS radio is a gateway hobby, to ham radio, and I think that that's what it was for Julie and I, as we both became involved in GMRS radio, and that interest in radio in general and the interest in the people that we met in the radio community just drew us into learning more and getting more involved and becoming becoming hams and becoming better educated and better radio operators. And so yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that statement that GMRS can be, for some, a gateway hobby to other radio habits, and that's not a bad thing. But it doesn't have to be. So for a lot of people, they don't have any interest in anything beyond the GMRS radio. Satisfies their interest and their need. They don't want to put the energy into learning how to become a ham or taking the test, et cetera, et cetera. And it's one of the things that's great about GMRS radio is you don't necessarily have to take a test. You just simply pay for the license, and that's where the family aspect comes in. And that's one of the things that we love about this group is that we've got everybody. We've got radio experts, we've got radio novices, we've got people that don't know the first thing about the radio other than this is where you turn it on, and this is how you change a channel, and this is the button that you push when you talk. And so we have those people in the group too, and it's great to hear from all of them. So good stuff. Appreciate your comments, and good luck on hosting the net. And it can be a very nervous thing to do. I still get nervous. I still get nervous before the net's here. I get that. Let me break. I get that sense of not being prepared. Of course, usually I'm not prepared. I just get little butterflies in the stomach just a few minutes before the net. But it seems like once I hit that push to talk button, my focus is on what I'm doing, and all of that stuff kind of goes to the wayside. So I know that you'll do well. You have a great radio presence, so I think that that you'll be very natural on the air, and that will work out good for you. So thank you, Steve, for that. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and take another standby to see if we have any additional questions, or the floor is open for new check-ins. What did I say?
Net control. We had 780 that had a comment there, and this is Atlanta 420. I'd like to make a comment after he finishes.
All right, 780. Go ahead with your comment.
Net Oh, 780. Well, I forgot what it was now. You know how it is when you get older. Dalton Ham Fest. Can you copy me okay on Pine Log, Justin?
You sound fantastic to me, Houston. So, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. The Ham Fest at Dalton is at the Dalton AG Fairgrounds. And I notice here that they've got a $5 gate fee, and then they've got a $5 for the boneyard. They've never had that before, but, well, I guess it would probably be worthwhile, just just the point of it. But I thought I'd throw that in there.
Well, that's good information to have. And Houston, do you know about the Birmingham? Aren't they having a Ham Fest, I believe, the following weekend? And I think that their Ham Fest has no admission fees, but they're accepting donations. But their Ham Fest is also boneyard only. There are no vendors. I believe is the case for the Birmingham. I think it was a Birmingham Ham Fest on March 6th. But yeah, a lot of times there will be a $5 to $10 entrance fee to the Ham Fest. That money usually goes to support whatever club is hosting that Ham Fest. And there are expenses involved with renting the fairgrounds, cleaning, and trash disposal, and that sort of thing. So that's how those expenses usually get met. And hopefully, when it's all said and done, the club will make a little bit of money from the event that they can use to further their club activities. That's kind of the whole point of hosting a Ham Fest for a ham club. But I don't know that it always works out that way. But so that's good information to have. Take a little bit of pocket change with you. You know, and $10 to get in, $5 for the gate, and $5 for the boneyard, I guess. And then bring some extra cash because you just don't know what you may find when you're there. And my advice is to only bring as much cash as you're willing to part with. Don't bring a whole wad of cash if you're going to be upset about having spent it, because it's very tempting sometimes to you stumble across something and you think it's a deal of a lifetime, and it might be, but just be careful about how much money you take. Take as much as you're comfortable in parting with. All right. Well, thank you for that, Houston. I appreciate that. Do you have any other comments? I know there was some interference at some point along the way. Hopefully that has kind of taken care of itself.
Hi, Roger. I'm sure it has. Yeah, I looked up the Birmingham Ham Fest while you were speaking there, and according to them, they're opening for the public from 4 p.m. until 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on Friday, March the 2nd. And then they will reopen to the public at 8:30 a.m. till 4 p.m. Central Standard Time on Saturday, March the 3rd. I haven't read all of this yet, but I'm sure if anybody's interested, they can go on the internet and find out a little bit more about it. Just type in Birmingham Ham Fest and it'll bring it up.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'm looking at a 2021 calendar here, and according to my calendar, Friday is going to be March the 5th, and Saturday is going to be March the 6th. So I wonder if that's current information.
No, sir, it's not. Belay all of that. That was a previous one. I didn't look at the top of the page. I apologize. I don't see the current one. I'm not sure if they're even going to have one.
Well, I recall seeing a post, and I believe I shared that post on our page. So after the net, I will do a little bit of homework, and I'll find the information for the Dalton Ham Fest that's coming up this coming Saturday, and I'll find the information for the Birmingham Ham Fest, which is coming up next week, and I'll make sure that both of those show up as posts on our Facebook page, and so that's going to be the best place for you to go to find current information. Of course, you can also Google it and find it for yourself. But I will make an effort to get current information on our Facebook page for both of those ham fests. All right, and Atlanta 420 said he had a comment. William, you want to come on in with your comment?
Roger that. Thanks, Justin. Yeah, I was wanting just the location and the hours again for the Dalton Ham Fest there. And I thought for our GMRS members, it might be good information that when they go into the boneyard or for vendors, to make sure that they ask about Part 95 certified radios, and that the frequency ranges between 450 and 470 is what they need to concentrate unless they're a ham radio operator. That way they can be sure about that, and other members could help with programming here. One other comment here. Let me take a break. All right. I didn't want to overstep my bounds here, but I've been thinking on some other ideas with possible corporate sponsors or local businesses, and wondered if North Georgia GMRS could possibly, with certain dollar amount donations, add on to the North Georgia GMRS website a link to like the plumbing service or anything else like that if they were a corporate sponsor, and maybe even let them do a periodic post to the North Georgia GMRS webpage on Facebook. Not overdoing it, but depending on their level there, but for local vendors there and for other corporate sponsors. Over.
Well, that's an interesting thought, and we'll definitely take that into consideration next time I have a conversation with Atlanta 60. We'll mull that over and see if that's something that we want to entertain. But that's not something that it's beyond my call. So we'll definitely have to run that up the ranks there and see what comes. But yeah, interesting thought. And yes, Part 95 radios, Part 90 or Part 95. Probably half the vendors that are at a typical ham fest, if you ask them if it's a Part 95 radio, they'll look at you and they'll say, no, it's a one-part radio. It's right there in your hand. You just get that one part right there. Two parts if you count the microphone. So they're not going to know what you mean, or they're not going to care, or they're just going to say, take it or leave it. So that's something that you have to be armed with the knowledge to be able to find out how to determine whether or not a radio is Part 90 or Part 95. And we have those tools available on the website. If you go to the North Georgia GMRS web page, not the Facebook page, go to the web page. That's where all the real good stuff is at. And on that web page, there are a ton of resources. There's everything from a step-by-step guide to how to get a GMRS license, and that's a tool that you can use if you have a friend that you want to introduce to GMRS. You can use that guide. You can copy that link and send that to them so that they can use that guide to get their own license. There are the full set of Part 95 and Part 97 rules are available as a link within frequently asked questions. There is a page that talks about how to operate on North Georgia GMRS with a picture of Atlanta 947. And there's just an endless wealth of resources. One of those resources is a tool that you can use to determine whether or not your radio is a Part 95 or a Part 90 radio. And the way that you use that tool is that when you've got that radio in your hand, you can look at the back plate of that radio, which is usually on the bottom, or if it's an HT, it's usually you have to take the battery off. And on that label plate, there is an FCC ID for that radio, and they're different. They may be 8 characters, they may be 10 characters. It's hard to say, but just take all of those characters for that radio and plug them all into the first box that you see on that FCC identification page, and it should open up a table of sorts that will show you all of the certifications that radio has with the FCC. And there is a document associated with that radio, and if you open up that document will show you what parts that radio has been accepted for through the FCC. And if it's a Part 90 or a Part 95 radio, then you can use it for GMRS. If you're using it for ham radio, I don't think it has to be part anything for ham radio. In ham radio, you can build your own radio. Ham radio is about experimenting and about learning and about the craft. So if the radio is a commercial grade radio, it's probably going to be Part 90, and it's probably not going to be bad in terms of spurious emissions. But you can use home built radios in ham radio. So I don't know how you're ever going to type certify a Heathkit radio, or a radio that somebody has cobbled together from an old copy of one of the ham radio magazines. So that doesn't mean that you can just do anything you want to in ham radio. There are rules, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a part radio for ham radio. But in GMRS, it does need to be. And so definitely explore. Let me break. Definitely explore the North Georgia GMRS web page and look for the frequently asked questions section. There's a lot of good information there in a lot of subjects, way more than I've talked about here. So bear that in mind. I noticed on the YouTube live stream there's a bunch of comments scrolling. I can see that they're scrolling because I see the window over there, but it's not close enough that I can read it. And so anyone who is commenting on that page, I'll look at all those comments after the fact, but I don't have a way to respond to any of that stuff while we're on the air. So let me break again. So if you've asked a question on that YouTube live chat, I will come to it and try to answer all of those either tonight or tomorrow, and get back with you that way. But for the most part, I don't have any way to moderate that while I'm on the air. It's just impossible for me to think of what I'm going to say and then read that screen too, so I hope you understand. And with that, I'm going to open up the floor one more time for any additional check-ins, any questions or comments. Net Control standing by.
WREC 529, Chattanooga 58, Bill through the Lookout Mountain repeater, checking in. Control, Atlanta 403, WREC 41 with a quick comment. Atlanta 285, I believe, has been trying to get you on Zello, but Zello has been in and out, 30-second cycle choppiness tonight. So if you want to break the hand, maybe you can try it again.
All right. Net Control is going to acknowledge Chattanooga 58, Bill from Lookout Mountain. Bill, I've got you in the log. It's great to hear from you, and we'll come back to you here in just a moment. First, I want to go ahead and acknowledge Atlanta 403 in his comment. I understand Atlanta 285 has been trying to reach me through Zello. So let me go ahead and make a break, and let's see if Atlanta 285 has a question or a comment. Atlanta 285, the floor is yours.
Net Control, Atlanta 285, do you read?
Yes, Atlanta 285. I know Zello can be a challenge sometimes to get that push to talk to work or to be able to get in between transmissions. So we'll leave a nice big hole for you to continue. You're coming in and you're sounding great.
Just waiting for the colors to change on this screen, but just wanted to make one short comment. A lot of people who are using Zello are using it because they do not have radio equipment yet.
Right.
But it's coming, and we'll be able to use radio equipment. And a lot of the Zello traffic on the receiving end tonight has been very spotty from your transmissions. So a lot of your transmissions have dropped out. lot of the new members, one last comment, and I'm clear, a lot of the new members are here because we're looking for an alternative means of communication. We're not looking to be hams, and we've gotten past the CB stuff, and we are at GMRS for a reliable alternative means of communication. This is Atlanta 285 WRKN 234. I'm clear.
Yeah, right. Well, CV, that's perfectly okay. And like I say, you know, oftentimes GMRS can be the gateway to other hobbies. But I'll tell you, for myself, 95% of my radio time is GMRS. Now, I do participate in a 2-meter net on Sundays, and I'm interested in participating in a few more nets through the week. I just have a tough time finding time for it. And I'll tell you, about half the time that I do have time to come in here and sit down and play with the radio, there's a conversation going on the GMRS side, and I'll either join in or most often just sit and listen. So I hear you. GMRS fits the bill, and I don't spend very much time outside of GMRS in terms of my radio time, even though I have that capability. We've got some great equipment sitting here, and it gets very little use. I don't know. I gravitate towards GMRS, so nothing wrong with that. And I hear you. And yeah, Zello is challenging at times because it's very dependent on things that we can't control. It's dependent on the way that packets move across the cloud. And what I mean by that is when you're talking about the internet, you have control of some things. You have control of your upload speed and your download speed, and you control that by what kind of service level you pay for. But once you put your information out there and it's been uploaded to your internet service provider, you don't have any control over it anymore. And the rate at which it moves and whether those packets are moving together. And one thing about the VoIP protocol, let me break. I remembered the mute switch. One thing about the VoIP protocol is that those packets don't necessarily have to move together or in the same order. So when you are speaking into your microphone on your phone, or even when I'm speaking into the radio, when that signal is being digitized to go over the network through VoIP service, particularly with Zello, those packets can be broken up. So you have an analog to digital conversion that's happening, and so when you convert that voice signal into digital, those packets will leave your system kind of as a stream in a sequential order. But as soon as they get to the ISP, packets can arrive at the other end out of order. And that means that the machine on the other end has to take the time to sort them out, put them back in line, and deal with any packets that get lost or are missing, and do it all very, very quickly, and shove it out the door. And so, that being said, our Zello service sometimes is a little disappointing in how it performs. So we hope that one day soon we can move off of the Zello brand platform and onto a product that will perform a little bit better, because we can contain the way that packets move a little more closely within our own network. So hopefully we'll have something in play to resolve that. But I'll tell you, CV, you're probably going to be on RF well before that happens. So meanwhile, we have to suffer through, and hopefully the live stream has been able to satisfy whatever deficiencies that Zello has. And the other thing with Zello is there's a delay. If you're trying to monitor Zello and your radio, there will very often be an echo. Let me break. I see something happening on Zello.
Now, I'm good. Just trying to give information, and for diagnostic purposes, this transmission tonight has been very gappy, very drop out, drop in. And I'm not complaining, giving you diagnostics. Atlanta 285 WRKN 234. We're clear, and thank you, Justin, for the job you do.
All right, CV. Well, I do appreciate your comments, and we'll definitely see if there's anything on our end that we can adjust to make that a little smoother. Hopefully, you can pick up some of the pieces from the live stream. I know there was an interruption about halfway through that live stream. Thank you, Bobby, for bringing that to my attention. Hopefully we didn't lose too much. But that's part of why we do that, so that we do have another way of capturing the content for the evening. So thank you for that. Let me move next to Chattanooga 58. Bill on the Lookout Mountain Machine. Great talking with you through the week on occasion, Bill, and enjoy very much the SpaceX and space-related conversations. But, Bill, do you have any questions for the group or related to GMRS radio?
Chattanooga 58, and I just went to amateur radio was my gateway to GMRS, and I probably spend more time on GMRS than I do my local repeaters, and I do recommend the Dalton Ham Fest. Dalton Ham Fest is absolutely awesome, and you know my situation here. I won't be able to go to the Dalton Ham Fest this year because of my situation in COVID-19 here, but anyway, I do recommend it, and Justin, you have just a tiny bit of white noise on top of your signal coming into the Lookout Mountain repeater, but anyway, this is WREC 529, Chattanooga 58, back to net control.
All right, and I'll tell you an interesting, at least it's interesting to me. The rest of you won't care about this, but the Dalton Ham Fest was the last Ham Fest that I attended. I haven't been to a Ham Fest since the 2020 Dalton Ham Fest. So we usually have a booth at the Stone Mountain Ham Fest, and we were planning to have a booth at a number of Ham Fests this year, or last year, technically, and this year. But all of those plans have been tabled until we start seeing things change. And so hopefully things will change, and hopefully this vaccine will do its job, and we'll be living in a different world very, very soon. But meanwhile, we're going to deal with it as it comes. So, yeah, Dalton Ham Fest. I would very much like to go to it this year, and I was on the edge. I really wanted to go, but then it occurred to me that, my wife's parents are coming, and that being the case, I probably should be careful about where I go and what I might expose myself to before they get here. So once that component of decision making came into play, that kind of nailed the lid on the coffin in terms of my Hamfest experience for Dalton. So and the Birmingham Ham Fest will be occurring while they're here, so I don't think I'm going to be able to talk them into going to that. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see what comes up next. Hopefully the Atlanta Ham Fest will happen. That won't be probably until June, but I'm going to hope for it, and we'll see what comes. Net Control is going to take one more standby for any late check-ins or any questions. The floor is open.
Atlanta 401 with a late check-in, just letting you guys know that I'm here and listening in.
Oh, I forgot about my mute button. Let's see. Who is Atlanta 401? Let me see if I can find that. That is David. All right. Atlanta 401. I show that as David in Canton. David, it's great to have you with us this evening, and glad to have you as part of the group. So, David, do you have any questions with regard to North Georgia GMRS?
Not at the moment. I've actually been having a whole lot of fun. Me and my brother have been playing around on here. He's Atlanta 410. I would like to know, what is going on with somebody keying up for very long periods today and yesterday it was occurring. Other than that, that's all I'd be curious to know about.
Well, that is an issue that is currently under investigation, and there's a couple of things happening. And prior to this evening's net, see, the radio that I'm using right now is a radio that I typically only use for net control. And so when I'm finished with net control, this radio is going to get turned off, and my other GMRS radio right here on the desk will get turned on. So that the radio that I'm using right now is connected to a 12-channel mixing board, and it's fed through a computer that we do live stream through, and so there's all kinds of unnecessarily complicated stuff that goes on with that radio. So what I like to do is at the end of the net is just turn that radio off so that nothing changes, and then next Thursday when it's time for the net, I can just turn it back on and go on the air, and it's very simple. So when I turn this radio on, apparently the push-to-talk was stuck, and I've experienced a stuck push-to-talk a number of times through the evening. I think I found what the problem is, and I've got a temporary solution in place at the moment, and I will employ a permanent solution sometime after the net. So that's one thing. The other thing is that we have a known issue with one of our servers that we have been trying to troubleshoot, and we believe that may be causing some of the issues that's going on. But I don't have any concrete information to say that is indeed the case. So we're going to pull some logs, we're going to look at some information, we're going to see if we can figure out what's going on with that, and if that's our trouble, we should be able to fix it. And if it's somebody that is just randomly keying, there have been instances where people would toss an HT in a pickup truck and then jump in a few minutes later and not realize that they've sat on it. And that radio will engage and transmit, and sometimes it's muffled, and sometimes you just don't hear much of anything at all, and sometimes that goes on for several minutes because the person that's doing it has no idea that they've done it. And then when they get where they're going and they jump out of the truck, the radio on keys, and they don't even know that they did what they did, and they may not ever know it. But that's something that can happen and does happen. It happened to me one time when I was working for the railroad. I sat on a radio when I was in the truck for nearly half an hour, and it had the push-to-talk down, and it had the VHF network screwed up for until the battery ran dead, probably 30 or 40 minutes. And I noticed it because I was wondering what was getting warm on my seat, and that's when I started feeling around and realizing I was sitting on a radio. So I've done it, and it is something that is very easy to do. All right. Well, we only have 28 check-ins this evening, but I think that's an excellent number, and that is a number that is very typical. Actually, it's more than typical of what our nets had been running prior to the last few weeks. So that I think is an excellent testament. And I really I think that the early bird check-in was successful. We had 15 early bird check-ins this evening, so we may continue doing that. Probably I will do it again next week, and we'll see how things go with that. So hopefully those things can kind of accelerate the process a little bit, make the net run a little bit faster, and get us out of here a little bit earlier. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up. And like I said, we had 28 check-ins this evening, including myself. So this will conclude the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. Tonight's, I already said we had 28. So net control will now be returning the repeaters back to normal use. Everyone who signed in should sign out. Thank you for allowing me to serve as your net control this evening. Good night, everyone. This is Atlanta 946, WQIR 514, and I'm clear.
WIAG 241 Atlanta 403. Clear the net of Monterey and
All right, YouTube folks. Thank you so much for hanging out with us this evening. I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up on this transmission as well. And I got to figure out how to go through these comments and still be able to comment on them. I'm afraid if I hit end stream, that's going to make that stuff go away. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to end the streaming from the OBS studio, and that'll give you all a blank screen to look at. And then I'll go through these comments and see if there's anything that I need to address. And with that, good night, everyone. Thanks again for hanging out with us, and we look forward to catching up with you again real soon. And let's see. Is it? No, it's not that button. It's this one right here. Good night, everyone.